If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then this, the UK Property Market Stats Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I'm joined by a special guest. This week it is Steph Vass, who is the boss lady or co-founder, or we'll call her the boss lady, of TAUK, the Agency UK. We'll come to Steph in a second. So, why should you watch this show? Well, the British are obsessed with the property market. Whenever the Land Registry or the Daily Mail, whenever the Land Registry or the Nationwide or the Halifax produce some data about the property market, it's front page news. But I'm not sure if you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, but the stats that the Nationwide and the Halifax are looking at is data from sales from 2 or 3 months ago. The Land Registry is looking at sales from 9, 10 months ago. We're going to look at the property market and house prices and everything to do with the UK property market from last week. So if you want up-to-date information, this is the show for you. This week is week 34 of 2025. I don't know where that's gone. And that is Monday the 25th, which is a bank holiday. Remember that, that's important. Monday the 25th of August, all the way through to include Sunday the 31st. The show is roughly split up into 2 sections. The first half looks at the UK property market, where Steph and myself will really look at the stats and see what's happening. And I'm sure, knowing Steph, because Steph is a regular contributor to the show, she does tend to speak her mind, so I'm sure there'll be some soapbox moments. The second half of the show is where we look at a town or a city. Now, this week, it's on Stoke-on-Trent, or Stokey as it's called to the locals. If you are a Stoke-on-Trent agent, you're going to be wanting to watch that. However, if you're an agent who suffers from overvaluing or cheap fees, you might want to watch that show, because we're going to be using a piece of kit that actually proves how good an estate agent is. So if you've got an agent who's overvaluing or not selling many houses, then this will actually show you what you get for your house, the same house, and compared to your competitors, and also whether they're overvaluing or actually doing the job they're paid to do, which is sell the flipping house. So if you suffer from any of those, I'd strongly recommend you watch that part of the show, but then we can show you how you can show that in your town to your own potential clients and vendors. Steph, as I said, is the boss lady and co-founder of TAUK, which is a self-employed estate agency model. And it's backed by some very impressive people from the industry. And what Steph doesn't know about the industry isn't worth knowing. And I'd strongly recommend that you follow her on LinkedIn, because she tends to speak her mind. Thanks for joining us today, Steph.
It is good to be here. Week 34. Wow.
Week 34. And I think Steph was on the show about 12 weeks ago, so we'll be interested to see what's happening in the property market. So without further ado, should we go and have a look?
Let's see. Where are we?
Here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, the way this works is this. We start with listings and then work our way down the various different metrics. And then what we will then do, once we've done, I've just gone through the figures, we'll take it over to Steph, and Steph will give her insight. So, here we go. This week, we have put on 29,151 properties, which, when compared to last week, was 33,425, and the week before that, 32,238. We have seen, as you can see on the screen here, a drop. So therefore, all you do-mongers, get ready, because you can start waving your flags, because the number of listings has dropped down. The number of properties that have come onto the market year to date is 1.232 million properties, which is 10.6% ahead of the 9-year average. It is 2.7% ahead of 2024, and it is 7.2% ahead of 2017, 18, and 19, which are what we would call more normal years. So, Steph, over to you. Anything to be worried about?
Well, look, last week of the summer holidays, we also, well, most of the country, even here in the northwest, had really, really good weather. People are just doing other things. doing other things this week. Bank holiday, all good.
Look, Steph, look. And all the other years is a big drop. Now, this week, week 34, we're almost a week ahead of ourselves in terms of how the weeks fall. So therefore, it always drops at this time of year for I was going to say Easter bank holiday, but for August bank holiday, and we get the same drops. The white line is this year's figures, and you can see the colours on the graph. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, all the graphs are available to download for your personal delight. Where if you go onto YouTube or whatever podcast you're listening to, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a little link there for you. You're able to use them at valuations. All I ask is that you don't publish them online, because my fee-paying agent clients, who I write content for on their town's property market, some of them use it, and it just wouldn't be fair. But I'm happy for you to use them at appointments, because it basically shows what you know what you're talking about, doesn't it, Steph? Right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's like Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what we expected. It's just we've had a bank holiday. It's the last week of the summer holidays. People are trying to get their kids back into routine. Some have gone away for a last hurrah. People's minds have just been on other things than listing their homes. And also think about it, last week, again, second to last week of the summer holidays would have been a terrible week to get your photos done because your whole house is in a tip.
Indeed. So, I mean, just to give you an idea, so last year it bounced from 29,000, and the week afterwards it went up to 38,500.
Wow.
Okay. And so again, in other years, it went from 24 to 32, 29 to 36, 26 to 32. So we certainly think there'll be a dearth of listings on next week's show. Okay.
Yeah.
We are filming this on Monday, the 1st of September. So we don't have the figures yet. And we normally film this middle of the week, but due to circumstances, we're having to film this on the Monday, which does mean some of the August figures that I would normally, and we'll come on to that in a second, just ladies and gentlemen, but some of the month end figures for August, we haven't had through yet, because they do take a couple of days to come through. So, okay, let's move on from listings, unless there's anything. Average price of a property coming on the market, 402,000. We will look at that in a bit more detail. Anything before we go to price reductions?
Nope.
Okay, so the number of price reductions is 17,562. The average price of a property being reduced is 395,416. And as I said, we haven't had the stats through for August yet, but at the back end of July, estate agents reduced on their stock 14.1% of the properties that they had on their books. Again, I suspect it will be very, very similar in August. Again, is that enough when we are only shifting 1 in 2 houses?
Well, no, I think activity will just be down across the board for the week that we're reporting on. But I don't think people have been, well,
I'm just generally talking.
high, but they haven't been reducing enough of their stock. Absolutely not.
Okay, so why do you think we as estate agents are only shifting 50.9% of the homes that we list? When I say shifting, I'm talking exchange and completing.
Well, I think if you listen and you're listening to buyers out there, I get the sense that people are very unwilling to pull the trigger unless they feel they're getting a great deal or it's a home that 100% ticks every single box. There's going to be very few circumstances where a home ticks 100% of the boxes. So we've got to be saying to our people, do you want to be a home that lists or do you want to move home? And if you want to move home, we need to price to entice, and that is the only way to go about it. Does that mean that you sell below market value? Well, no, but what is market value? Market value is the value that you get on the day that you close your deal, the day that you move home. And there's no crystal ball to tell us what to get to there. But I firmly believe that you can't undersell a home, but you can overvalue it and you can overprice it. But you can't undersell it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm part of a Facebook group which is full of buyers and sellers, and I put a post on saying, if your house hasn't sold within a month, then it's overpriced. and I've got some abuse off that, which I was expecting to have. But I'm of the opinion that Rightmove and the other portals have created a level playing field. So, some would say, well, it's poor marketing. Well, if the photos are bad and it hasn't got floor plans, is that going to actually make a massive difference? Not really, should it? Okay, yeah, it'll affect it. It will. Okay, will it affect whether it sells or not?
No, I think in the grand scheme of things, what you just want to be doing. So if I was a home seller watching this now, I'd be thinking, I want the trifecta, right? I want the marketing. I want somebody who's going to push it just outside of this platform. But the thing that I've got to know that I'm responsible for is price. I've got to pull that trigger.
Yeah, and again, we have discussions in estate agency Facebook forums is where does the responsibility lie? Is it the estate agent? Is it the vendor? Now, I'm of the opinion it's obviously both, but I'm of the opinion that it starts with the estate agent. And, you should never judge an estate agent based on the price they give you, but on the strategy of the price they're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. If people are just walking in giving blind prices and they've got nothing to back it up, be it comparable evidence or a strategy to achieve said price, well, you're on a hide into nothing. But unfortunately, I don't think anything material is going to change until the people that go out and give those prices to sellers are really affected by the bottom line and the profit and the actual viability of that business.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, just so you're aware, I did some statistics where I actually compared, and I looked at the top 100 estate agents in the UK by volume, and those that are owned by corporate estate agents, their saleability rate was in the order of around early 50s. This is for the last 12 months. The 50.9% figure was for last month. This is 12 months. Whilst the self-employed models, where they actually had skin in the game, was early 60s. And the difference was 20% proportionally. So ask yourself, what is the motivation of the estate agent selling? And again, there's an awful lot of estate agents out there who actually get a bonus when they list a house. Can you believe it? They get a bonus.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's so little skin in the game. Even an end of sale bonus. It's not really about that 50 quid, 100 quid, 150 quid. It's more about getting one house off so they can deal with the plethora of other clients they've got sat there and having them own. So yeah.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I'm a massive fan of the self-employed model. Now, what I would say is this is when I did the research in the top 100, there were a number of large regional agents, and their figures were actually better than the self-employed agents. So just don't think every self-employed agent is good. Now, self-employeds are better than
No,
corporate.
no. But I think where you as an individual, somebody that has some form of effect on that transaction, if you are tied or you at least even know what's going on with the P&L and the profitability and the viability of the business, you are bound to have a much greater impact on the listing figures and actually getting those sales through to completion. So yeah, I'm all for independent agency in whatever guise that comes.
Indeed. It's interesting. I was talking to a very nice young estate agent based in the South who's just gone self-employed, not with your model. And I asked him that, he's been on market, he's been 3 months, he's got a couple sold and he's got five or six on the books. And I said, are they at market price? What's the motivation of the vendors? And he said, well, not particularly. I said, mate, I know you've got a comfort blanket of some listings, but they're actually costing you time and effort. And I remembered, and again, for those of you who are quite young in the game, you have what's called the listings triangle, okay? And at the top is motivation, and at the other 2 points you've got fee and you've got price, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, if you have not got two of those things, do not list the property. It is better to say no now and pick it up on the rebound than try it now and let someone else sell it.
There you
Unbelievable.
go.
There you go. Right, back off the soapbox. Let's get back onto the to the graphs. Okay. So the average price of a property coming down was 395, and as I said, we've done the number. It is lower, but again, it is bank holiday. And remember, this bank holiday in week 34, most bank holidays occur in week 35. Let me just remind ourselves, because here we go, we're going on to the sales. So we have dropped down on our number of sales. Let's just have a look at the stats. So this week, 21,337. There we go, which again, compared to other years, is on the lowish side. But remembering that our week 34 is a week before everyone else's. The average price of a property selling, the asking price, 349,800. Year to date, gross sales are at 892,000, which is 6.1% ahead of last year, 2024, and 13.3% ahead of 17, 18 or 19. Just to give you an idea that if the number of sales were sorry, to pull that back, hold on. Can you see the graphs? Are the graphs there?
Yep.
I don't know if, yeah, hold on. There we go. And where have they gone with me? Do you know, I have to stop 2 seconds, stop, then put it back on again because I can't find them. There you go. To give you an idea that we're, as I said, we're on 892. And as I said, it is what 13.3%, but above 17, 18 or 19. To give you an idea, we're on 892. If the average of 17, 18, 19, 787,000. Okay. So therefore, doesn't sound a lot, ladies and gentlemen, but there's over 100,000 more property sales year to date compared to the normal years of 17, 18 and 19. Okay. And again, there's the roller coaster there's the dip down. Anything on sales, or is it just business as usual?
Just business as usual. It's a quiet week. Everyone's on the jollies or getting ready for the new school. Yeah, so yeah, that's expected.
Okay, so let's just remind ourselves here, but the average asking price of a property selling 349, the average price of a property coming on the market 402. Now, let's just pull that back. What's happening here? So what happens is this: the lower price properties have a higher chance of selling. We know that. We say that regularly on the show, which means that the average price will be dragged down because there was more lower price properties selling. The important bit is the gap between the two. Okay, and you'll notice here that there is a cyclical nature of it starts off there's 23, then it drops throughout the rest of the year, then she goes up, then she drops down, then she goes up, and then she's starting to drop down. It will continue to drop down. In the next 2 months, this red line will scoot up to around 470, 480. And the reason that is again, we say this on most weeks of the show, that's everyone from London coming back from Provence, putting their houses on the market. I tell you what, I was looking, last week was Wimbledon, and I was looking at some, a terraced house, 1.5 million pounds.
Wow.
I mean, you live in the real posh area of Liverpool, and it is really posh, ladies and gentlemen. What does 1.5 million get you up there?
I've just been to one of my listings actually. It's 1.6, but you've got nearly 6,000 square foot, a swimming pool, a tennis court. A little bit different. But also in my little village in the northwest, there are 3 Michelin star restaurants, 5 Michelin stars across those 3 restaurants in total. And they'll have
Ladies and gentlemen. Well, the village is Alton, ladies and gentlemen, just because, again, there's not going to be many villages that have got that many stars, but it is really posh. It's like the really, really uber posh area of Ormskirk. So therefore, if you ever meet anyone from Alton and they're getting a bit full of themselves, you just say, well, it's just...
yeah.
But it does look very, very nice. Right, let's move on. So that's the stats. As you'll show it, this is a snapshot of week 34. The turquoise is the average price of the property selling, and the green line is the average price coming on the market. Again, let's just remind ourselves that doesn't mean that the average homeowner is taking 50 grand less. It's just that the lower price properties have a higher chance of selling. And as I said, the difference is the magic is the difference. The long-term average is 16 to 17%. So we're a bit below, but like I say, that number, that red line is going to explode up, which means that gap is going to go into the 20s. Sell-through rate. The sell-through rate, again, we haven't updated this yet because we do need a couple of days for the numbers to settle down. So we've only got the July figures, and that was estate agents are shifting 15.4% of the houses that they list. Again, I don't know. I mean, if you'd have asked someone, we say this most weeks in the show, but for those of you who have not watched the show before, it felt like we were selling everything in 2021, but we weren't. We were only selling 30% of the stuff we had on our books. Strange, isn't it? Perception.
Yeah, and I just think, there's two ways to look at it in that you should never ever stop prospecting for new business. But at the same time, it's much easier to sell listings that you do have than the listings that you don't. So don't be so forward thinking about all the new stuff that you want to try and get on. Actually, look at your stock you've got today. You've already spent a load of money and time servicing it to get to this point. Go out and sit with your clients, reassess. And if you've got fee, great. Make sure you get them motivated. And then when they're motivated, the price will be right.
Cool.
Just in that little triangle that you said before. But yeah, you've already done all the hard work in getting them listings, so do something with them.
Indeed. Right, let's just look at fall throughs. And this week, fall throughs were at, let's just pull this up. We're at 5,149, which is a drop. But again, I'm suspecting that's because of bank holidays. So
Yeah.
we will have a spike next week when everything catches up. The fall through rate was 24.09. Again, even though there were less fall throughs, there were less sales because of the bank holiday. So that remains in line with the percentage. And again, for those that haven't watched the show, the sale fall through rate, the total number of fall throughs that week expressed as a percentage of the total sales that week. Okay. It's just an important metric, but I don't think it's as important as this metric, which is the percentage of sales pipeline that fell through. And as I said, we haven't had the August figures yet. They take a week to come through. But on average, agents had 5.77% of their sales pipeline falling through. Again, we'll get those stats for you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's quite normal, isn't it? Nothing really to ground
One of those weeks. It's a filler week, really.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it will sort itself out next week.
Yeah.
But okay, net sales 16,228, which is lower, but we were expecting it to be lower because of the B word. Okay. The number of net sales this week, which is the stuff you're going to get paid on, 681,918, which is 5% ahead of last year, and 9.8% ahead of 17, 18, 19. Again, just to give you an idea, the average year to date net sales in 17, 18 or 19 was 621,000. So therefore, there's an extra 60,000 properties that you're going to get paid on, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't sound a lot, 9.8, but when you say 60,000, yeah, that's not bad. Not bad at all. So again, what we'll tend to find here is, I suspect, is this just ignoring the 2020 figure because that was daft year. She'll just drift off quite nicely as we go through to the autumn and then obviously fall off the cliff when we get to that. We get to the month beginning with the letter D, with that certain festival beginning with the letter C. Anything on that before we
It's just one of those weeks. So nobody's sitting there panicking because you all had an extra day off yourselves as well. So
It's interesting because again, in this forum, someone said, "Well, is everyone just holding off because of the new potential budget?" And I said, "Well, if we did that, then everyone, yeah, there's always something, ladies and gentlemen, with an excuse not to do
yeah.
something. The market is the market, and people will buy. And the amount of roadblocks and potential roadblocks we've had, even in the last 5 years, let alone the last, 10, 15, 30 years, there's always something on the horizon. There's always something now. There's always something on the horizon, but people will always move home. So,
Yep.
yeah, so just get out there. Okay. Gross sales as a percentage of listings and price changes as a percentage of listings. And then we'll just finish off. We haven't got the stats yet through, but that was the back end of July. I suspect that it will be very similar. I suspect it will, but again, we haven't got the stats. I've been tracking the stats, but as I said, nothing that I feel comfortable publishing until we've actually got the final ones through. That's the number of property sales that are in agents' pipeline. Again, that should drop off slightly, but we'll just see how we get on that one. anything before we go to Stoke-on-Trent?
Just sell the listings that you've already got. Go and have an in-person strategy meeting with your seller. Do you the world of wonders.
I'm banging on about it constantly. Um, at the time of listing, book in an actual face-to-face meeting with the vendor at week 3 or 4.
Yeah,
Okay. And that's not on Zoom, that's going back to the house. Okay.
yeah, right
Also,
back to it.
Also, for anyone who is finding it challenging to do price reductions, if you text me on the following number, I will send you 2 scripts which take the emotion out of price reductions, and they do work a treat. So my telephone number is 07950 147 572. And if you text me the word price reduction, I will send you 2 scripts that work absolutely wonderfully. Okay.
They're great scripts.
Yeah, they're good free scripts. Yep. There you go. Anyway, without further ado, let us go to Stoke-on-Trent. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are using a piece of kit called Insight. Insight is like Rightmove Plus on steroids. It doesn't just look at the last 13 months like Rightmove Plus, and I am a fan of Rightmove Plus. This looks at the last 5 years plus the year that we are in. Also, the amount of data that is available is vastly superior, probably 4 or 5 times in the size. And being able to have more data over a longer period will give you a better opportunity to judge your performance. What we're doing here today is looking at Stoke-on-Trent and seeing which estate agent and letting agent, mainly our stats are based on the estate agency side, performs the best in Stoke-on-Trent. For those of you, the Insight platform is from a firm called 20EA. Now, do remember 20EA have a number of different platforms. We're just looking at Insight. I'm not paid in any way, shape, or form to highlight Insight. And if you wanted to buy this piece of kit, you can, going direct to 20EA. Do not mention my name. I'm not on commission. I believe they have a number of levels. They have a free version, which is very limited to last 3 months. Then there is a paid for version where you get up to, I believe, 10 postcode districts. And then there's a regional one, and then there's a national one. And in terms of the cost, the price of a probably for 4 people on a takeaway from your local Chinese would pay for, depending on how hungry you are and whether you're having the duck rolls, because I do like the duck rolls. You would pay for this, so it's not expensive. But as I said, I'm not on commission, and I know Steph is a massive fan of it as well. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at the stats. Okay, so here we go. Just so you're aware, the postcodes that we are looking at is ST 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12. Okay, Stoke-on-Trent, for those of you that don't know, is like a conurbation of lots of little baby towns that have all come together and kind of made a lump called Stoke-on-Trent. I've got a little soft spot for Stoke-on-Trent, and you know what it is, and I often probably go there 2 or 3 times a year, and it is a challenging estate agency market. So let's go and have a look. So between the 1st of January 2020 and the 31st of August 2025, we're looking at new instructions, and as I said, we're looking at those postcode districts there. You are actually allowed. If we wanted to, you could go down to postcode sector level. We're just looking at second-hand properties and property types. You can split it down into property types, and you can change the price range as well. So again, there's lots of stuff in here that you can play with to your heart's content. You can see here that the different levels of properties, this is new instructions coming on the market. And again, you can measure exchanges, fall throughs, price changes, relists, sold subject to contracts, and withdrawn. But we're just looking at new instructions. 38,601 properties have come onto the market in the last 5.5 years, with an average asking price of 191,446. So let us have a look and start off with Butters John B. Butters John B were bought by the Spicer Heart Group approximately 5 or 6 years ago, a big regional agent in the Staffordshire area. And you can see here that probably 2020, they suffered slightly with regard to the market share and probably has been remained pretty stable between 21 and 22, drifting off in 23, but it looks like pulled their socks up in the last 18 months. And you can see here that the general trend is in an upward direction. Okay. The average asking price of a property coming on the market, 172. That's important because you can see, well, I like to use the analogy of supermarkets, and you can see that if 192 is the average, 191 is the average, then obviously the market that Butters John B goes for is more the lower to middle market, so more of a Morrison style estate agent. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Morrison's. Moving on, Samuel Makepeace. Again, similar prices there. And again, had a good 2021, but eased off in 22. But I would say there's a general trend. It's pretty static, but with a slight negative downward drop. So let's go to Stevenson Brown. And you can see here that their average price is 253. So that's more of a Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's estate agent.
Lovely.
And again, there's some growth there, which is nice. So
Yeah.
an average year in 20 and 21, and then a slightly upward growth there. Looks like you had a bad December. Is that right? Yeah, you had a bad December, but pulled it back. So I'm suspecting here that Stevenson Brown probably held back some listings and put them on the new year. There's nothing wrong with that because you can see that big spike upwards. Next, we go to Purple Bricks. And again, you can see here that they were quite dominant in 20 and 21, taking nearly 10% of the market, with a general drift in a downward direction and a hovering around that 2 or 3% mark. Priory 186. Again, dominant player 5 years ago, but their market share has drifted from an average of, as you can see there, 5 or 6% to nearer 3%. Again, you can see the power of this. You don't get this in any, Rightmove Plus. Ulsterberries, average price 160. Nice growth there, don't you think? I like that.
Definitely growing.
Yeah, I like it. Well done. Average price 160. Current big. So they look like they're the agents that deal with the posh houses. Okay, average of 280. We will look at the upper quartile in a second, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and we'll probably we'll have a better look when we just look at the upper quartile. Okay, Shaw and Company. That's feast and famine. Good month, bad month, good month, bad month.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yes, it's all over the place. Let's go and look at Reed's Rains. So again, looks like 2021, and then we got some growth, and it's been nice and steady since then. Okay. Critchlow Estates. Well done. We like that. Good
And
growth.
a nice average property price as well.
James to Pavey. So again, James to Pavey are more of a southern, so in the market towns south of Stoke, and I think their tentacles do go up to the southern part into Stone and round there, which again and the outskirts of Stoke. So again, general trend is of a upward nature. Let's have a look. Right, Newton Fallowell. So part of the Belvoir property franchise group. And again, looks like 20 was a good year, but slight drifting downwards there. Okay. Done rate. Okay. Good month, bad month. Your move. General trend upwards. Bridgeford's. Okay. Belvoir. Looks like you had a good 21, but leveling off. Carter's. Oh, look at that. Well done, guys. That's yeah. And 232. I wonder if they'll appear higher up if we look at the last year. I think we will look at that in a second. Timmis, Martin and Co. So it looks like we had some nice growth in 21, 22, and 23, but it's been drifting downwards since. One agency, drifting down. Dale and Collins, Hayward's. We'll go down to number 30. I've not seen any of this self-employed ones. Oh, okay, Northwood, Yopa. Okay, all right. Okay, right. Interesting, interesting. Right, let's look at the upper quartile, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to probably go 500,000. Not going to be many houses. So,
No,
so it's going to be a lot spikier. And you can see here that in the posh areas, it seems to be a three-horse race between Whitaker Biggs, Stevenson Brown, and James to Pavey. If memory says, well, the posh end of Stoke is at the southern end. I'm going off memory there, so I might not be right, but okay. Let us go and look at the last year. See if there's anyone moving and shaking. Have we got any new keen high flyers? Okay, that's okay. So there's, not much happening there. And again, if you look, compare the percentages, it's a lot tighter there, isn't there? Look at all those, Steph.
that's
Between,
highly competitive.
yeah.
There's no outlier. There's no sort of, front of the race. They're all just sort of
Yeah, so if we just look at that, ladies and gentlemen. So in 10th place, in ninth place, you got 3%. If we look, okay. So Samuel Makepeace at 6. So again, so what you're finding here is that the two bigger agents, Butters John B and Samuel Makepeace, it looks like everyone's been nibbling at you, like not, at you.
yeah,
So I'd be interested to have a look at what marketing Samuel Makepeace are doing to counter that. Okay. Right. Okay. So, okay, let's move on and go and look at stock levels. So, again, we haven't got the August figures in yet, but there won't be that much difference. So you can see here that in 2022 and 2021, there was 1,600 nearest damn it, 1,700 properties for sale in Stoke at the end of July. And at the end of July in 25, 2,700, which means that there was a near 50% uplift. Actually, it's more than 50%,
yeah.
for near 40% uplift. That's just 168. Yeah, it's over 50%. It's 50% more homes for sale. Which is
Wow.
not bad, actually, which is not bad compared to, I mean, if you go to the South Coast, it's nearly 100%.
Mm.
Okay. I think I mentioned that last week in the show. Again, we don't know why. We've got some feelers out at the moment on that. So that's stock levels. Okay, let's move on. Okay, right. Okay, so So what we're looking at here is the last 12 months. We're looking at all prices, and the what we've got here is there's some absolute gold in here for some agents, and there's some absolutely shocking stuff as well. So here we go. The order that we're in is just based on new instructions. Okay, that's all we have. So we've just got the biggest agents at the start. I want you to ignore new instruction market share, sold to contract. It's these four columns here, ladies and gentlemen, exchanged and withdrawn. You see, what we've got here is this, right? In the last 12 months, hold on, we'll just get this out. So I'm doing 269 plus 180. Okay, so 449 properties have left Butter John B's books in the last 12 months, right? Of which 269 have exchanged contracts and 180 have withdrawn unsold, which means that for every 100 houses that Butters John B put on the market, they exchange contracts on 59.9. The average is 65.7, which means that they are below. I'm not criticizing. They are below the average in Stoke-on-Trent. Whilst Osterberry's are at 70, Samuel Makepeace 82. That is exceptional.
Yes. And look at his withdrawn 17. That is
Yeah.
solid.
Because if you add those two numbers up in each column, ladies and gentlemen, they always come to 100%, because a property can either leave a books with exchange or it leaves it because it withdraws. So we're not looking at fall throughs. We'll look at fall throughs in a second. But there's some amazing numbers. Look, Priories at 86. think I've only, in terms of being a top 10 agent, I've only ever seen that once or twice in 3 years. So if you're the boss of Priory Property Services, that is exceptional work.
Oh, you could clean up in this market, which is seemingly quite a tight market in terms of that new listing market share. Investing in this for 12 months and getting that message out there, absolutely clean up.
Purple Bricks at 70 at 56. Shaw's, I mean, some decent numbers are here. Wow. Some really good stuff there. Yeah.
But again, wouldn't you think, like, wouldn't you prefer to actually earn from 85% of what you list and actually get your money back for all the time and money that you put into it than list a load for half of it to fall off?
It's because many estate agents have bruised egos, and because they want everyone to love them, they would rather not lose it because it hurts them. And also, they would rather put it on the market than see another agent's board outside because they have bruised egos. Bless them.
God bless.
Bless them. Honestly. And if you think this is harsh, ladies and gentlemen, then follow Steph on LinkedIn because she pulls the pin and she doesn't hold back. Okay, you're being a bit soft today, Steph.
I'm being very nice, aren't I?
Very nice today. As I say, you've changed. But okay, right. But joking aside, ladies and gentlemen, there are some other stats here. Let's look at fall through rates. The average fall through rate is 23. Now, what I am liking about Butters John B is that their fall through rate isn't that bad at all. So
Let's give them that.
okay, they're finding it difficult to sell them, but when they do sell them, many don't fall through. Okay, so there's some decent numbers in there. Who's at 43? Purple Brick.
Oh, shouldn't have surprised us, would it?
No comment, my lord. Okay, there's a 17 in there, which is your move. So well done there. So what this is telling us, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's not many fall throughs in Stoke.
No.
But your challenge is getting the things sold. Now you're doing really well. These are fantastic numbers, much better than national average. But when you've got the number one agent, Butter John's B, only shifting 6 in 10 out of houses, whilst his agents here that are selling 9 out of 10. So if I was Priory, I'd be saying, Mrs. Miggins, I don't know if you're aware, but there are agents in this town that only shift less than 6 out of 10 people. But with me, you've got a 9 in 10 chance of sale. Oh, and here's the laptop. Here is my iPad, and there's the percentage. And you just give them the iPad and just point. This is the column, the exchange column, and that is the percentage chance that you'll actually sell or not. And let the iPad do the talking. Okay. Okay.
But also even that, Priory don't necessarily need to go out there and list a whole host more homes, but they could be inching that fee up every single listing that they do take. That is the better business model.
You're right. Right, let's look at price changes. So who's overvaluing? Because we actually have the overvaluing slide in a second, ladies and gentlemen. So average is 39. So what we've got. So there we go. Samuel Makepeace. Look, there's your proof. Do not overvalue because they're at 28 and their exchange levels is at 82. Priory. Okay, they do price change. Nearly double at 38, but I bet you £1 to a penny what they're probably price changing them really quickly because you can still overvalue ethically and get the price down, like we said earlier in the show. Try it. We've tried it at this, Mrs. Miggins. The market's saying no thanks. We need to bring the price down so you can get offers, and then if you don't like them, you can say no thanks, but you're not in control. That's that script I said at the start of the show. That's called the no thanks. It's all about removing emotion from the price reduction process, and you'll win. We'll come on to average. Well, there you go. Average time to sell. So here we go. Samuel Makepeace, 46 days. 78 days for Butters John B. Okay, so just have a look at that. And I'll move that up. There we go. 122. There you go. Some big fall through rates here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that's the number of days it takes to sell. So there's some wide gaps there. So just bear that in mind. Okay. Right then. Okay, let's go look at lettings. Okay, so the average rent in Stoke-on-Trent in 2020 was £544, and at the moment it is £798.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Is that the same sort of level jump that you see across the country in that timescale?
No, I would have expected a jump of about if you gave me 500, I'd probably said 700.
Right.
That's slightly higher. Okay.
Wow.
Right, let's just wait for that to kick in. You'll take right. Come on. Good. Right, here we go. So open rent is quite dominant. Now this is I've not seen this before. The open rent had 20% of the market 5 years ago. Mostly in the UK, that was nearer 5. So it dropped down to 15 and has gone back up to 25. So 25% of the properties that are coming on the market in Stoke-on-Trent is on open rent. What you tend to find is because it's a cheaper rent, more landlords tend to go to open rent. Okay. What is particularly interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is nationally, in the last 2 years, 51.2% of open rents properties were previously on the market with a high street agent. That is your biggest challenge, is making sure that they don't leave your books and go to open rent. Let's have a look and see who the main players are with regard. So there's open rent. Let's look at Martin and Co. It's a general trend upwards, so I liked it. That's very nice. Butters John B. Wow. Wow. I'm just letting the graph do the talking.
Yeah, no commentary needed on that one.
Leaders are growing, but
Nice.
I don't know, it might have been an acquisition. Okay, let's look at Nicholas Humphreys. So again, Nicholas Humphreys tend to be a specialist student let.
Right.
So again, I'm going to suspect that these
That's
are.
where you've got the spikes. Okay, it makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Belvoir, Stevenson Brown. We'll just do these. Okay, there's a oh, Osterbridge. We like Osterbury, don't we? Yeah.
We do. We do.
Okay, Reeds Rains, Fallowell, Student Cribs. And again, we're looking at new instructions here, ladies and gentlemen, but new instructions have a direct relationship to what stock you're living. And again, I have a formula that you can actually work out how many properties an agent has on their books based on the number of properties they're putting on. That percentage, that number does change as you go throughout the country. But again, I cross-reference it against agents I know with stock levels, and it's within a 5% tolerance, so it does work. Okay, Stoke Property Shop, Keats, Bridgeford. So I go down to number 20. Actually, I go to 25. Okay, right then. I think that is about it. Right, ladies. Not ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing the outro already. Bad luck. Final thoughts. Schools on the doors. What's she thinking?
Don't be worrying about activity over the last week. You had a day off yourselves, and everybody's slowly getting back into the swing of things. Should absolutely be focused on filling your pipeline full of new listings for sure, but don't forget about the ones that you've already got. You've already done the hard work in getting them. Don't waste all that time and resource that have already gone into them. Go out and see your sellers in person. Use that script that Chris has talked about. Use one of the two. Laughing your head off.
Thank you, Steph, for coming on the show. We'll get you back before the C word, before the end of the year, being well. But mostly, thank you for watching the show. And we'll see you next week, where we'll be choosing a different town, and we'll see how the agents are more working in that town. If you're a Stoke-on-Trent agent, and you're looking to grow your business, then one of the services I can provide for agents is a mentoring service where I can help you grow your lettings business and also attract homeowners to give you a call for evaluation. If that's the sort of thing that is a problem, you're not being called out to enough or you're losing, then please do give me a call. We use property data like this to make you appear to be the most knowledgeable agent in the town, so you are attracted to it. Because do remember, ladies and gentlemen, 36% of homeowners, and this is based on a survey of 10,000 vendors by the Property Academy, 3,600 or 36% said they chose their agent based on the agent's local property market data. So using data attracts people to it. I know, Steph, you're a big fan of it, and I know a lot of other agents are. But anyway, that's the end of the pitch. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next week for week 35 of the UK Property Market Stat Show.